G'day gang. I had a guy ask me a little question. I don't normally do these little questions, but I think it's probably some, and somebody else said, it'd be interesting to hear some stories from back where I sort of all began. And the question was, what was the first car that I worked on, and the first job, like in the trade, that I actually worked on. And that's kind of a little bit difficult. Well, yes, it is and it isn't. When I was a kid, I'm talking early teens, I used to knock around with a whole bunch of people, and they had what we called paddock bashers, and they were just unregistered heaps that we would belt through the bush. We had some trails going near home, and bash through the bush, and I end up with a bash car myself. But as far as working on cars, I just helped people do things and observed, really. So really it's hard to say the first job, what I first worked on, because I had before I actually came into the mechanical trade, even these don't help. Where was I? Alright, so my whole point was, I think the actual how I got into the game was probably more interesting for the first cars that I actually worked on, and that is that when I left school in 1970, the end of 73, got my license 74. I was 17, wanted to be a mechanic. I'd messed with things all my life as a kid, including my own old C4 Renault that I learnt pretty much how to undo and do up, and nuts and bolts and things like that, and lost a lot of my dad's tools, as kids do. But when I left school, I said, I really wanted to be a mechanic. I was right into them. I had, as I said, I just had an old car when I was a kid, and so I thought I'd go and approach my dad's mechanic. He had nothing going at the time. I don't think he had an apprentice. I think he had a partner, or he might have had somebody working there, someone that was a more mature person, but he had nowhere for me to go. So I buggerised around here and there just with jobs that I could find at the time, because when you're fresh out of school, you need money. You've got a car. I bought a car. It was a Tirana, an LC Tirana, and that ended up with a Burt Jones cam and extractors and side draft carburetor and that sort of thing, and they really had no security on cars back then, and it wasn't easy. It wasn't hard for someone to just pick the door and take your car, and that's what happened to poor old Tori. She ended up being found down in the bush a few kilometres from home, and somebody had jumped it over I don't know what they did. They bent it and jumped it over a jump or something. I don't know, whether they ran out of road or whatever. But she was knackered, and then I bought an EK Holden and I did the engine up on that, and it ended up with triple carburetors, and it was a 186. Ended up being an EK Holden 1962, which used to have an old grey, but this had a 179. Brought out a little bit to 190, and stage 3 head, triple CD Strombergs, some other things, you know. I mean, it was just the thing we did back in the day, and I still hadn't become a mechanic at that point. One of the jobs I'd lost at that at a point between going through just finding work, I went back to that. My dad's a mechanic, and I asked him if he had a job. He said, "Oh mate, you missed out by 2 weeks. I've just started a fella." And I thought, "Oh, you know, you go in with hope, and you just go boom, just plummet down with the, you know, the bottom of it all." And at any rate, and I said, "Oh, bugger, you know." And whilst I was there waiting for that guy, Peter, I'm watching. This workshop was a place that repaired things, you know. It was they repaired cylinder heads, because back in those days you still had cars that needed to have the heads come off and to get a decarbon, a decoke, cut valves, you know, repair cracks, cast iron things, you know what I mean, and of course surface grinding, you know, and I was standing there watching this guy, and it's a horizontal service grinder, and he's running the head across the fence, you know, across the fence of it all, you know, and he's going, and I was only there for probably about 10 minutes before this Peter had a chance to come over and talk to me, and when I asked him, you know, if he had a job, and I'm watching this guy doing this back and forwards, and that's when I said to Peter, you know, "Have you got a job?" And he said, no, I, you know, just employed this bloke." He turned around and looked at him, and he said, "Haven't you finished doing that yet?" And I looked at Peter and I said, "He didn't take the head gasket off the cylinder head. He's just been grinding the cylinder head, the head gasket away. He hasn't even got the head yet." He said, "Okay." He said, "The guy with that was the 2-week employee, you're done, I'm hired." So that was a bonus. So he was a really cool guy. He taught me pretty much everything I know about the basics of mechanics and how to go about it efficiently, quickly. He taught me, you know, one of the first things he took, because back in those days, ball joints, suspensions, kingpins, just all those things failed repeatedly. It always happened, and so he taught me how to crack a ball joint. You know what I mean? You know, hit ball joint through, hit that with a hammer, bam, it pops off. No biggie. You know what I mean? Or if you were trying to undo a ball joint nut and she's spinning, you go and get yourself a coal chisel, give her a good whack, splits the nut open, bam. You're done. So he taught me a lot of tricks, and any rate, so that went on for probably quite a few months, I expect. But the first time I got a real job to do, as far as I was concerned, because I'd been already doing front ends, I'd been doing wheel alignments even. We had a whole old Hunter lighter line, which has got some stories in amongst that as well. But we we did a lot of things. But a car came in, and it was a Simca, probably late 50, early 60 I've got to say. Simca, and somebody had transplanted into that a 186 Holden straight 6 with triple SU carburetors and a 4-speed gearbox out of a Tirana and a rear end out of a Tirana, and they did a hill climb, you know, little hill climb car. That was pretty good, but it came in for a freshen up. Of course, I'd already done my car. I was driving around, is a 1962 Holden. It's got a 179 in it with triples on it and a cam and head and all stuff. So he said to me, he passed it over and said, "There you go, you do it." So I guess that's what it was a 186 professionally that I did. A 186 with triple SUs, 1 3/4, extractors, a Opel 4-speed, a yellow Terra cylinder head, a little bit of chrome, and whacked into a Sigma, Simca, sorry, not Sigma, Simca. So yeah, that's probably the first car that I professionally did that really I enjoyed, because I was so into the cars. I'd already done cams in my own cars without any, only from what I'd seen from some friends, you know. So I really had no knowledge of, you know, other things like the things that matter, you know. Just whack a cam, chook shed build, as you say, or as I used to say, and we'd just throw them all together. But yeah, I think I told you about the Torrey, and I think I told you about the EK. It was Dad's mechanic, yep, and we did general service, or he did general service and all that sort of shit, head repairs, repair cracks and shit like that. How I got in the game, did that one. First car, the Simca, yeah, 3 SUs. And yes, the place was a place where you used to fix things, water pumps. We used to rebuild water pumps, cylinder heads all the time, heads coming off, and they were older cars. They were cars from the 60s. They were Minis. There was Holdens, there was Falcons, Valiants, a lot of the English cars. You know, there was a lot of those things around here. You know, the Austins and things like that. So a lot of that sort of stuff. You know, you might not be doing the job yourself, but a cylinder head might come in that needed a crack done on you know, whatever it was, because they were all old cast iron pieces of shit back then. Let's have a look. There's some more. There's a lot of stories, you know, that I could probably tell you. And it wasn't a big shop. We used to be an old service station. It was it probably had about 2 pumps out the front, 2 Bowsers out the front, a little office area and a workshop up the side, which is probably about 2 cars and 1 car. And the end one was like the lube bay, where it had an old central hydraulic lift in it, and you know, those buggers would swing around if you weren't watching what was going. And one particular guy who ended up working there wasn't paying attention and did knock all the fluid pumps off the wall. Yeah, so, but yeah, there's a lot of stories in that place. Stories where I smashed my own teeth out on that Hunter lighter line, as I said. You know, there's a bit of stories about those set of ramps. I smashed my own teeth out and broke my knee. I did a lot of things back then. But at any rate, I had a lot of good times too. Built boat engines. I learned a lot back in those probably 4 or 5 years. I think it was 4 years. And then in 1979, things went kind of a little bit upside down in the industry. He wasn't doing too good himself as far as finances were going, so he teed up a job with Holden for me, and I worked there for a number of years, and that opened my eyes to what was going on with Holdens, and it's a good thing that I knew Holdens, and that only improved my my education, and pretty much everywhere I've ever worked, it's kind of been a 5-year deal. I've worked in a lot of places, in a lot of fields of the vehicle trade, and a lot of things. Engine shops, wheel suspension specialists, yeah, there's a lot. And you do learn a lot, and that I think's what it's all about. Back in the day, there wasn't. You could go to technical college and you could sign yourself up and do it the way they did it. When I applied for technical college, they said, "Sorry, buddy," because I hadn't gone to tech while I was doing all this stuff with Pete. and the whisper was out that we had to have a license, we had to carry one, and so I went off to the TAFE, and they kicked me out because I knew too much for the level that I was entering at. So I ended up getting a license anyways. And I still got a valid license today, you know, 45 years later, or whatever, it's been best part of 45 years. And I'll keep going with it. Love the trade, love the cars, love the old steel, love the old iron. Shitloads of more stories. I don't know if you'd be interested in them. I doubt they'd be really interesting, but that's a cool little story there. I haven't told that story that completely for a long time, probably because I haven't given myself any reminder notes, because I always go off track. Sorry to have bored the shit out of you. Hope you're having yourselves a good one. I'll check you later. Cheers.